Well, first of all, hey, my name is Marcus Buck, and I'm the co-founder and head of customer experience here at DueDash. So the private equity market obviously is a global multi-billion-dollar business, but oftentimes it still remains a kind of a poker game. Why? Because the financing process from early on is still characterized by intransparency, as well as information asymmetries and incoherences. Especially early stage investors are facing huge sunk costs due to the great demand of market research, as well as the individual analysis of scattered startup information. Those direct and indirect losses account to around $37 billion a year. But not only investors struggle to analyze the associated risks that come with startups. Actually, startups still have difficulty finding funding on time. 40% of all startups fail because they don't have enough runway, with financing processes taking 6 to 9 months. Another 50% still fail because of other reasons, such as lack of market need or the wrong team composition. With DueDash, we make startups investable and at the same time help investors make data-driven decisions. To do this, we launched our global startup community platform on April 29th, and since then organically grew to over 1,800 users from more than 80 countries in the world. By gaining global access to startup-related networks, knowledge, and resources, we first help startups to get to the point of investability. Furthermore, we are able to secure global and strategic partnerships, and meanwhile also increase the top of our funnel to actually overcome the typical chicken egg problem. On top, this approach already allowed us to obtain validation for our actual investability platform, and at the same time also derive hundreds of data points in order to be able to teach our AI engine. Next up that is what DueDash is all about, because with our private capital tool with integrated AI and machine teaching, we can actually streamline and shorten the lengthy due diligence process for startups and investors by up to 40%. Founders receive a fully automated and visual feedback on their investability as soon as they upload all the needed data for due diligence to their own structured and secure data room. Because the best due diligence always starts with a good self-diligence. With our strong focus on the customer experience, we want to enable our main target group, the founders, to realize their strategic missions and KPIs. Our gamification elements motivate them to update their data regularly. This in turn leads to more transparency and trust for investors, because our platform can become the single source of truth, as it includes all the necessary functions from early deal sourcing to transparent due diligence using an integrated CRM. And our research shows that DueDash is currently the only company in the world that covers the entire value chain of a startup investor relationship with data points and interactions. Our team has over 50 years of founding and over 20 years of investor experience with networks all over the world. And we all share the intrinsically motivated goal, making startups investable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Any questions?
Is somebody in your team has real experience of working in venture capital?
Yes, 2 of my co-founders have actually been, they've by now created a family office. They've screened over 4,000 companies and invested in more than 50 of them themselves. And this is why they realized those problems happening all over the world.
Can you show the team, please, again?
Yes, sure. This is the team. As you can see on our advisory board, we also have huge LPs sitting, as well as the president of UPS Germany, AmCham, some really high people that were tackling our idea for the past 2 years. LPs, VCs, business angels, really trying to punch hole all aspects of our idea until we got to this point here.
That's very interesting. I mean, it would be interesting for us to use the platform as well. But can I ask you, obviously, so for example, as part of our due diligence process, we call the clients of the company, and this is not something that can be automated. So in the 40% reduction of the time that you need in order to conduct a due diligence, what do you guys can automate? Which are the classic tasks that you can automate? Just reading the financial model and summarizing the Excel? I mean, what do you practically do?
So in the end, we're having a so-called triangulation method. So we're getting the voluntary disclosure, all the information that they upload into the structured data room, where we also educate them what type of content is needed for due diligence. We source our community platform and third-party sources, specific ones, put them through our cognitive model, and in the end, textualize and contextualize all the information and give a summary report of all the information that otherwise an analyst has to do. The reason why we only say up to 40%, because actually, we want to give investors more time to evaluate the personality of a founder, because that's something an AI can't do. We can estimate roughly what is the personality of that founder, but we want to give investors more time for that important aspects and not going through thousands of documents in the manual process.
And would it be more useful for Series B, Series C, or also for seed stage?
To be honest, it's especially useful for early stage investors, because as a VC at a later point, you have already lots of information at hand, but especially the early investments are characterized by lots of information asymmetry and a lack of information availability.
Last question, as a potential client, how much does it cost, the solution?
For investors, a yearly subscription fee costs $12,000. For startups, only $120. That also leads us to an overall TAM with 300 million startups and 30 million investors of $512 billion. So just with 0.1%, so every 1,000 startup or investor, we would still end up with an annual revenue of $500 million US dollars.
Sure.
Do you have clients already?
So again, on our community platform, roughly 5% are investors, 70% are founders. We're building all those processes that we just showed already in interim solutions to collect all the data. We have 250 applications. We need, our goal is to get 1,000 applications before we launch the platform or in the meanwhile, so that we can already start teaching our AI engine on that. But we also are making first minor revenues through the community platform as a second revenue stream to come in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.